I want to talk about one of the most important concepts that I discovered during my transformation: metabolic flexibility. Understanding this concept fundamentally changed how I approached nutrition. Not what I ate, but how I thought about what I ate, when I ate, and why my body was responding the way it was. So let me start with the definition. Metabolic flexibility is your body's ability to efficiently switch between fuel sources, primarily fats and carbohydrates, depending on what's available and what's needed by your body. A metabolically flexible person can burn fat effectively when carbohydrates aren't available, during fasting, low carb periods, or extended exercise. And they can also efficiently use carbohydrates for fuel when they're available and appropriate, during high intensity training, for example. A metabolically inflexible person is essentially stuck. Their body has become so dependent on carbohydrates as a primary fuel source that it struggles to access stored body fat. A couple more days I have my teeth back. I cannot wait. Even when they're in a calorie deficit and actively trying to lose weight, if they're stuck, it's very difficult. This is why some people can eat less and exercise more and still not lose weight effectively. Their metabolism isn't flexible enough to access the fuel source that they're trying to burn. So, how I measured it, I used a device called a Lumen. A Lumen measures your CO2 concentration in a single breath, and it uses that measurement to determine your respiratory exchange ratio, essentially whether your body is burning primarily fat or carbohydrates at that moment. The reading comes back as a number from 1 to 5. 1 and 2 mean you're in fat burning mode. Your body is primarily accessing stored fat for fuel. 4 and 5 means you're carb burning mode. Your body is primarily running on carbohydrates. 3 is a mixed state, transitioning between the two back and forth. I take a reading every morning before eating anything else in my fasted state, and that gives me a baseline read on where my metabolism actually was before any food influenced it. Here's what the data showed me. When I had higher carbohydrate evenings, even if the total calories were within my target, I often woke up with a Lumen rating of 4 or 5, burning a lot of carb. Still in carb burning mode, right? So my body was still processing those carbohydrates from the night before and hadn't transitioned into fat burning mode overnight, which is typical. When I had a lower carbohydrate, higher fat evening, the kind that supports overnight fat oxidation, I would wake up with a reading of 1 or 2, deep in fat burning mode. My body had spent the night accessing stored fat for fuel. That pattern taught me something crucial. The timing and composition of my evening nutrition was having a massive impact on my overnight metabolic state, which was affecting my morning energy, my mental clarity, my hunger levels, and ultimately my fat loss rate. So here's how I used that information. I started structuring my nutrition in a way that supported the metabolic flexibility, not just hitting a calorie target on training days. When I was going to be doing strength work and I needed carbohydrates for fuel, for that performance, I timed my carbohydrate intake around the training session. More carbs in the meal surrounding training when my body could use them efficiently. On rest days and lower intensity days, I shifted towards lower carbohydrate, higher fat nutrition, supporting fat adaptation and metabolic flexibility rather than fueling performance that wasn't happening. Over time, my Lumen reading shifted. My baseline metabolic flexibility improved. My body became better at switching between fuel sources, which meant I was accessing stored fat more effectively, even on days when I wasn't on a strict calorie deficit. And so why does this matter beyond weight loss? Metabolic flexibility isn't just a weight loss concept. It's a metabolic health concept. Research does link poor metabolic flexibility to insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes risk, cardiovascular disease, cognitive decline, and accelerated aging. A metabolically flexible metabolism is a healthy metabolism, and building it through nutrition and lifestyle is one of the most impactful long-term health investments you can make in yourself. But the bigger point, most diets tell you what to eat. They give you a meal plan or a macro target and tell you to follow it. That approach ignores how your body is actually responding to what you're eating. Metabolic tracking gives you the feedback loop that's missing from most nutrition approaches. It tells you not just what you ate, but what your body is actually doing with it. That's the difference between following a plan and understanding your body. And understanding your body is what produces the results that do last. If you want to understand how to apply data-driven nutrition principles to your own situation, the link is in the description. I do free 30-minute discovery calls, real conversation, no pitches. I'm Jeff. This is Becoming Lighter in Life and Mind. Subscribe if this was useful or resonates, and there's a lot more coming.